And I think that's one of the things that we're trying to preserve, is that we're the last one. And we're only having trouble with the one wall. That is going to, the amount in terms of restoration is really not that much. As the judge pointed out, they're getting the same courthouse that we have, that we're getting 3 buildings for what they're paying for 1. Another aspect I wanted to mention is the library. The library is already under what the state requires for certification of having a public library. We are way below the square footage that is needed.
I've got no problem with the library. I think we need a library.
Well, that's part of this package.
It's everything's a package. We don't. Why, if that one's going to be so good down there, why aren't we building one over here?
We've got district court.
Yeah, that's what a district.
And we're taxed right now on our courtroom spaces. We have family court, we have JP court, we have county court, and district court, and we shuffle around to make it work the way it is. But we're growing, and with all this Eagle Ford, the number of offenders are growing. There'll probably be courts added in the years to come. It's just taking care of business ahead of time so that we will be there for it. It's an opportunity that it's just like the criminal justice facility was built in '93. I think it was about $4 million at that time. You can't build one now for any, you know, and the quicker we take care of these needs, the less. It's kind of like when we go to the conferences and everything, and I wasn't here. That was the sheriff and Martha Snobble that actually did the courthouse. I mean, the criminal justice facility. But when you go to these conferences and you see what they're dealing with, trying to get it done at this time as opposed to then, it comes to light that it's not going to get any cheaper. And the thing about it is, our financial advisor that's been around since the courthouse can get money at less than 2% now. And if you miss a year and interest rate goes back up, whatever, it's going to cost you a lot. And like I said, I think it wasn't so far off on the courthouse. That's the reason I went ahead and said, my wife will tell you right quick, she criticized me for saying it, but I said, you know, I don't mind when I get all the facts and you see what the facts are. There's nothing wrong with changing your mind, because I thought the same thing, that, well, if earthquake came, we'd be better off starting from scratch, but that's not the case. It's not even close. And so Miss Eva has stuff stored in connexes over at the sheriff's department. Got stuff stored downstairs, scattered here and there. We rent space from the newspaper for our archives. We've got housed the voting machines and things before we got this. And there's a lot of things that, you know, people don't not realize, the record keeping that has to go on, and the amount of courts that go on. When they have family court here, it's a circus. I mean, you got a visiting judge come in and people in and out with, and so I mean, it takes all the different courtrooms to make it. And in reality, what it costs to do a mile of road?
More than that, like 50,000.
Probably like about
50,000.
About 50,000. So I mean, you're looking at 16 miles of road, basically. You know. So I mean, and everything's important. I mean, and I said, we took in consideration. We took in consideration that the jail bonds were paid off. We can't go up more than 8% a year on taxes. When I came into office in 1999, the tax rate was 0.47. We got it down to almost .40 in the appraisal district in 1 year. Raised a bunch of people's taxes and lowered a bunch of people's taxes, and when they protest, they went and lowered all the appraised values. So we raised the tax rate back to .46. We're down to 4.5 now. There's a good possibility, there's no guarantee. We're getting a rail yard between Suspanco and Elmendorf, 1,000 acres in the county. The refinery between Nixon and Pandora's up and running again. We've got the, well, you're familiar with the transfer plant down on below Three Oaks. The infrastructure for the oil field, I mean, we're not going to have anything like Karnes County has, but the tax base is coming, so there's a good chance your taxes will even go down as to what they are now. Yeah, no guarantee. I mean, but what I'm saying is, we've taken all that into consideration, and we just, I think that the court has done a very good job in meeting the needs of the county in the future, and I don't apologize to anybody for it.
I got something to say, Judge. You know, when we first started, I mean, the money-wise, what we were talking about, it was $6.6 million for the quotas on. And then we came back and they did a lot of work. You added the library and everything. It came out to, I guess right now it's 8.3 as it stands. And if we go and borrow that money, we're not looking to borrow 8.3. We gotta borrow at least, what, 8.5 or 9?
I mean, we need to have, I guess that'd probably be, it's usually for, if all furniture, fixtures, equipment, if we're not going to utilize that, you have some more, could have some contingency, but from another.
Okay, well, just say 9 million, we're looking at, I mean, we're looking at a payment of almost $586,000 a year. That's for 20 years. I mean, that's a whole bunch of money just for us to sit down, for my opinion, sit down here and say, you know what, we're going to go for this obligation debt, instead of having the taxpayers go out and they take a vote. If they really want it, they can vote on it, and that way we can sit down and say, this is what they want. Because I think it's mostly for the taxpayers, this, what we're doing. It's not for us to take a vote and say we're going out for the obligation debt. That's my opinion. I mean,
And I'll agree with that.
because I mean, that's a whole bunch of money for 20 years. I mean, you never know what
That's
can
what they did
happen.
it for.
Down the line, I mean, the oil industry, yes, is booming everywhere, but I still haven't seen nothing really that comes in the county of Richmond. I mean, Burns got some numbers that she displayed, and how much was it, Burns, that?
Oh, the increase
The
for
increase?
this year? Check me out on here, Albert.
While we're waiting on that, go ahead.
Well, didn't the financial advisor said that this is about the cheapest money that we're going to be able to get for a long time?
I don't know what he said or not, but that's general consensus.
I'll just let you know what, we're about 7 years behind what Guadalupe County have done. And they are in the same boat that you are. They were in probably about eight or nine, maybe 10 different buildings, as well as having rental storage units all over the place. And we did a study to find out exactly where they need to do. We moved them into one building. And again, we saved enough money on the one building that we were able to basically put a parking garage structure of 200 cars in between for the city. But more importantly, what we've done is at the end of it, we're down now from about 9 or 10 buildings occupied down to about 5, 6. And by the time we're finished, they'll actually have 2 or 3 buildings they can actually sell, but they don't, because we streamlined the whole affair with them. And again, on their facility, they were looking at, we'll be all in when it's all done, we'll probably run about 11, 12 million. And you know, they're a much bigger county. But compared to a new facility built somewhere else, which the way that growth happens no matter what. Now I agree with you, none of us have seen the oil, and I think the judge has been very shrewd and cognizant that, you know, we don't want to bank on any minerals that are, you know, for the short term when we're looking at a long-term goal. unfortunately, it's a fact of life that as counties and cities and jurisdictions grow, you have to grow with it. If you don't, you get left behind.
Well, and the thing too is that, like, the time element is important as far as the tax, the interest itself. And it's also, Miss Eva, what does an election cost?
On the small election,
A countywide election, it would be
Oh,
what this would be.
okay, it is 14,000.
And
Because I thought
and
that
90,
was told me.
and there's not, I can count the people on one hand that has been opposed to this so far, that has come forward to me anyway. So, that's just like throwing that money away and then taking the chance of interest rate going up, and it's something that's needed, and it's needed now. The district judges are putting pressure right now for more security and screening people into the courtrooms. This makes it easy. That courthouse over there, as far as, you'd have to change the whole whatever of it to make it a secure building with the number of doors that we utilize now, you know. So, you know, I think that,
That's another thing, Judge, that we don't normally see unless you're involved in it, but Texas jail standards, like the sheriff before with this, their standards going up every year. And over recent years, they've been patient with all the jurisdictions like this and allowed a few things go and a few things slide, but they're getting tougher and tougher every year, and they enforce more money to be spent to correct an issue, a security issue, a prisoner transfer issue. You're trying to bash a square peg in a round hole. You spend more money that's just dead money, and then better streamlining it into a facility that's going to work.
well, anyone else have anything?
What's your election be? I don't know how much time.
Well, the convert to- is a problem. I'd have to check on the I'd have to get it.
We've put a lot of money in this already, and we can't vote on it tonight anyway, so.
To answer your question, Albert, is a $19 million increase in minerals
And minimum,
from last year to this year. But wasn't terribly significant.
And none of this has really been based on the members of this at all. I mean,
Well, we grew almost 33% the last decade. That was preceded by another decade when we had growth in excess of 30%. And I predict that we're going to have another 25 to 30%.
oh, it's going, I mean, we haven't had the influence in the past that we've had in this decade because of the Eagle Ford. There's not even any comparison.
And so, aside from the fact that that expands the tax base, the population growth, it also expands the need for services. And to me, after looking at this thing and through this thing, it's necessary. I'm with you from the standpoint that if we're going to redo the old courthouse and we're going to turn around in 20 or 30 years and have to do it again, then we're wasting money. But the last update that was done to the courthouse, for the most part, was cosmetic. This is structural, along with some cosmetic. And a lot of studies have been done to determine exactly what the cause of the problem was. And I paid close attention because the judge made me sit in the area that looked like it might fall. So what we're going to have is a historical courthouse that will function to a degree in a way that it hasn't functioned before from a positive standpoint. What was the district courtroom will become the commissioner courtroom and will be used for county court for the most part. And it's a rare opportunity, in my opinion, with the the bond for the jail just being completed, having the facilities that we have, that we can use, to where we've solved a problem for the county clerk, we've solved a problem we've talked about for years for the library, and we've put together a district court that should be adequate for some time. Now, granted, we bought the school property, and you could continue to have commissioners court or office in some of those offices, but quite frankly, we're going to make use of elections over here like we did, so we'll have a very adequate election facility, and we still have the ability for expansion, because we're nowhere near. If you go back and take a look at where we were 30 years ago, 20 years ago, or go back to the Cesspool Centennial and how much it's changed from then to now, it's like everything else is exponential. The change that we're going to see in the next 10 years is going to be to a degree related to a lot of years back, because it's just the way things are. We're to the point to where the growth north and west of San Antonio has become very expensive. Not as much room to grow. When you take a look around at where to go, Wilson County is rolling, and we have oaks, and of course we have our mesquites, but we are a much more interesting direction to come. And the meeting we had the other day, Kevin Brown, who's the developer of Brigo Lake and Eden Crossing, is doing another addition at Brigo Lake, and they haven't even broke ground on that addition. It's not a huge addition, and they've already pre-sold essentially everything. So from his standpoint, and we're talking homes out there that are $300,000 to $600,000.
The other thing people will know too is how much more we have room for our offices, DA's office, probation office, district clerk, which they're out of room.
What was the jail bond? What was it per year?
The payment,
Uh-huh.
301, I believe.
301 a year. And that's, was done in '93. The worst case scenario that she got down was, 9 million. That's the worst case scenario. It's 586,000. You're looking at pretty close to double what the jail bond was, and you're looking at, I don't know how many years difference. And
I do think, Judge, we may want to take a look at putting perhaps some sort of cap on this thing.
Well, we talked about that.
And just saying, okay,
That's what-
as opposed to doing a $9 million loan for this, is just put a cap on it, and if we're not there, then we make up the difference in furniture, fixture, equipment, and areas that, in my opinion, don't necessarily have to be dealt with, which won't.
I agree too, Larry. I think
But
that
question the structure, the integrity of any of it.
once you got the building sorted, I mean, you can live with furniture for a number of years. We've done that before, but, you know, judges have taken their furniture from where they were and put it in a new location.
And we have fairly rare opportunities to get furniture through government facilities, desk chairs and so forth, either for nothing or for
We've
next to
already
nothing.
made some changes, like from seating in the courtroom back to benches, because the benches seat more people and the judges.
And they cost less.
They cost less, and that was one of the things that was looked at. There's a number of things that, of course, when it comes to the security of it, we're not going to cut any corners there, because that's something that's going to be whatever. Is there anything else anyone wants to cover today?
Couldn't we leave it just a minute, but real quick, Sheriff, didn't we have a nickel? Wasn't the tax rate when we did the jail bond way back when a nickel? Do I remember that right?
I believe that's right.
And Verna, do you have any idea what would be allocated